A sharp obsidian beak tilts 3 degrees to the left. Above a rusted iron fence line, a single crow sits motionless against the damp gray horizon of a suburban alleyway, its dark eye tracking the precise pattern of a line cook, stepping out for a smoking break. This is not the passive gaze of a wild animal searching for random scraps. It is the calculated, methodical observation of a strategist measuring human habits, recording time intervals, and mapping vulnerabilities. Within the quiet canopy of city parks and quiet backyard gardens, an unseen intelligence agency is operating around us. For decades, classical ornithology reduced these birds to creatures of pure instinct, bound by rigid genetic programming and simple stimulus response loops. Yet when you strip away our long-held anthropocentric biases, a far more unsettling reality emerges. The skies above our cities are inhabited by master manipulators, tactical thieves, and sophisticated cognitive tacticians capable of reading human intent with alarming precision. Consider the ordinary ravens haunting the fringe of a pine forest at dusk. Beneath the shadow of heavy pine needles, one bird holds a fat, greasy acorn in its throat pouch, scanning the clearings with hyper-vigilant intensity. It knows it is being watched by a rival perched 80 yards away on a dead birch branch. What happens next shatters the traditional boundaries of non-human intelligence. The raven drops to the mossy earth, vigorously thrusts its beak into the dirt, covers the spot with dry oak leaves, and flies away. But the acorn is not in the ground. The bird kept the food hidden safely inside its mouth the entire time, executing a flawless piece of misdirection designed specifically to fool the onlooker. This is tactical deception. To pull off a trick like this, an animal brain must possess a psychological construct once thought unique to humans, known in cognitive science as theory of mind. The raven must understand not only what it sees, but what its competitor can and cannot see, projecting a false reality into the mind of another individual to protect its survival assets. To truly understand the depth of this cognitive machinery, field researchers had to stop observing passively and start designing experiments that challenge the birds on their own psychological terms. Deep inside high-tech avian behavioral laboratories, scientists set up complex trials with western scrub jays, birds renowned for their incredible spatial memory. In these controlled environments, a jay was given a tray of fresh mealworms and allowed to cache them in ice cube trays filled with fine sand. Half of the jays buried their food in complete privacy. The other half were forced to hide their stash while a dominant rival watched them through a transparent acrylic wall. The behavioral divergence was immediate and staggering. The birds that were watched while hiding their food returned to the scene the second the rival was removed from the adjoining room. With frantic efficiency, they dug up every single mealworm and reburied them in entirely new, unobserved locations. The neurobiological implications of this simple act shook the scientific establishment to its core. Recaching food is not an automated reflex. It requires episodic memory, an internal mental time travel mechanism that allows the bird to recall the past frame by frame, evaluate who was watching during each specific moment, and predict future risk. Even more revealing was a dark psychological twist discovered during these experiments. Only jays that had previously stolen food from another bird's cache engaged in this paranoid rehiding behavior. Innocent birds that had never engaged in theft left their hidden food untouched, completely unaware that others might harbor malicious intent. It takes a thief to know a thief. The bird projects its own capacity for dishonesty onto its peers, adjusting its security measures based on its own personal history of criminal behavior. This shadow world of avian deception extends far beyond simple food hiding into the realm of complex acoustic warfare. In the arid shrublands of southern Africa, the fork-tailed drongo has perfected a form of vocal extortion that rivals the most sophisticated human confidence tricks. The drongo is a modest, glossy black bird with a notched tail, often seen perched on high acacia thorns, watching meerkats forage through the red dust. When a meerkat unearths a plump scorpion after minutes of exhausting digging, the drongo emits a sharp, piercing alarm call, the exact vocal signature used to signal an approaching martial eagle. The meerkats panic, dropping their hard-won prey and diving headfirst into the safety of their subterranean burrows. The drongo casually swoops down, collects the abandoned scorpion, and dines at its leisure. If the trick ended there, it would be impressive enough. But animals, much like humans, learn when they are being lied to. After 2 or 3 false alarms, the meerkat band realizes there is no eagle in the sky and begins ignoring the drongo's warnings. This is where the bird reveals its true cognitive flexibility. When the basic alarm call fails to initiate panic, the drongo switches strategies. It smoothly alters its vocal cords to mimic the specific, panicked alarm call of the meerkats themselves, or even the warning cry of a neighboring babbler bird. By dynamically rotating through a repertory of over 30 distinct stolen vocalizations, the drongo prevents its target from learning the pattern of deception. It manages an ongoing campaign of psychological manipulation, keeping its victims in a state of perpetual hypervigilance while systematically looting their labor. Back in urban environments, this cognitive arms race manifests in ways that directly target human infrastructure. On the rain-slicked asphalt of suburban parking lots, crows have been observed monitoring human eye gaze with terrifying accuracy. If a person walks past a perched crow with their eyes fixed straight ahead on a storefront, the bird remains still, permitting a close approach of less than 3 feet. However, if a walking human turns their head just 10 degrees toward the bird, aligning their pupils directly with the crow's position, the bird instantly takes flight. The crow is not merely reacting to human presence or movement speed. It is continuously reading the focal vector of human vision, calculating intent, and assessing threat levels in real time based on where our eyes are pointed. The intelligence of these birds reaches far beyond spatial geometry and sightlines. It crosses into the domain of social memory, grudge holding, and cultural transmission across generations. In a groundbreaking study at the University of Washington, researchers put on a terrifying, exaggerated latex mask, known as the dangerous mask, before trapping and ringing wild crows on campus. They left a second, neutral mask untouched as a baseline control. The trapped birds were released unharmed, but the psychological mark had been made. When the masked researcher walked through campus days later, the response was immediate and fierce. Crows perched high on concrete ledge rooftops and bare oak branches erupted into loud, harsh alarm calls. Dozens of birds swooped down from all directions, diving aggressively at the wearer of the dangerous mask while completely ignoring humans wearing the control mask. But the true revelation came years later. As time passed, the percentage of crows mobbing the dangerous mask did not decay. It grew exponentially. Birds that had never been trapped, chicks that were not even born when the initial experiment took place, began joining the mobbing dive bombs. The original crows had transmitted a specific, detailed memory of a human face to their offspring and neighbors without any physical threat taking place. Through subtle body postures, specific vocal pitch variations, and collective observational learning, the flock created a living historical archive of enemy profiles. The facial features of a single human had been encoded into the collective consciousness of a local avian culture, surviving across generations like an urban legend backed by real tactical threat assessment. This capacity to pass complex behavioral traits down through generational lines has led to localized traditions that mimic human tool development. On the isolated South Pacific island of New Caledonia, wild crows manufacture specialized hunting gear out of raw materials found in the rainforest. A crow will select a stiff pandanus leaf, use its razor-sharp bill to snip along the spiny edge at precise intervals, and tear off a narrow barbed strip of vegetation. With this stepped leaf tool held tightly in its beak, the crow probes deep into the dark decay of rotting wood, hooking fat cerambicid beetle larvae hidden within subterranean tree chambers. This is not a crude stick chosen by chance. It is a standardized design, manufactured according to a mental blueprint that varies in shape from one valley to another across the island. Young crows spend months watching their parents craft these hooked implements, learning the precise angle of leaf tearing and the delicate wrist-like rotation needed to extract prey. In laboratory settings, when presented with straight pieces of flexible aluminum wire, a material completely foreign to their natural habitat, New Caledonian crows immediately bent the wire into a functional hook using their feet and beak to retrieve a tiny bucket of meat from a vertical plastic tube. They did not just use a tool, they invented a solution to a novel engineering problem on their very first attempt. The evolutionary driver behind this hyper-developed cognition lies in the unusual structure of the avian brain. For over a century, neuroanatomists dismissed bird brains as primitive, viewing them as simple clusters of basal ganglia incapable of higher thought. This tragic scientific miscalculation stemmed from a lack of a layered cerebral cortex, the folded outer layer where human problem-solving and abstract logic reside. Modern neurobiology has shattered this misconception. In birds, higher cognitive functions are driven by the nidopallium coturnix and surrounding dense structures, where billions of neurons are packed at tight, extraordinary densities. Though small in absolute volume, a crow or raven brain contains a neuronal packing density twice that of a chimpanzee, allowing rapid processing speeds and complex signal integration within a compact biological frame. Their neural networks are wired with hyper-efficient short-range connections that allow instant crosstalk between memory, visual analysis, and motor control, producing an executive functioning center structurally different from ours, yet functionally equivalent to the mammalian prefrontal cortex. This cognitive efficiency reaches its absolute peak in the realm of long-term planning and self-control. Delayed gratification, the ability to resist an immediate reward in order to secure a far greater outcome in the future, has long been considered a hallmark of human intelligence. In controlled cognitive tests, ravens were presented with a locked box containing a high-value food reward and an array of random objects, including a specially shaped wooden key. The birds passed over immediate edible bread scraps to select the wooden key, holding it in their beaks for over 15 hours before being brought back to the locked box. They willingly chose to wait, holding the abstract utility of an inanimate tool in their minds through a full sleep cycle to secure a better meal the following day. As our sprawling concrete cities expand into wild habitats, we are not pushing these master manipulators to the margins. We are accidentally creating the ultimate evolutionary training ground for them. The urban landscape is a chaotic matrix of high-frequency hazards, predictable human schedules, and dense calorie reserves that rewards adaptability, precise memory, and bold innovation over raw physical power. While other species decline under the pressure of habitat loss, corvids and hyper-intelligent songbirds are thriving, mapping our garbage truck routes, decoding traffic light sequences to crack open hard nuts under car tires, and using our architecture as elevated surveillance perches. They are watching us through the dawn mist on power lines, reading our faces, deciphering our habits, and teaching their young who to trust and who to target. We are not alone in the city. Above the noise of morning commuter traffic and the glare of streetlights, an ancient alien intelligence is evaluating our world frame by frame, exploiting our blind spots, and quietly mastering the art of survival in a world built by human hands.